This is the Leitmotif and Movement Podcast, a father and son's journey into the vast worlds of music. I'm your host, Mike Ficklin, and joining me on this epic musical journey is my son,
Michael Ficklin.
This show is dedicated to the discussion of music and introducing Michael to music from the past and present. We will mainly be discussing the genres of rock, hard rock, and heavy metal. We'll also, from time to time, dive into film and video game scores, and we'll sprinkle in a few surprises along the way. Michael, how's music been for you this week?
Pretty good. I've been listening to What It Is to Burn from Finch. Also listened to P3, or also known as Periphery 3. That's it.
Yep, I've been listening to quite a bit of stuff here this week. Been kind of all over the place. But before we dive into that any further here, I just wanted to set up a little bit about what this show is and what it's going to be about. Mainly, I decided to try to do this show with my son here because I realized that kids today and the younger generations in general don't listen to terrestrial radio anymore. That's not the way kids are finding music. That's not the way they're discovering music. There's so many ways for them to do that these days, be it through their favorite streaming platform like Spotify or through YouTube. There's no real good way of discovering new music without knowing what you're looking for. And by the same token, you're also not being introduced to music from the past, stuff that might have influenced the music that or newer music that you may or may not be listening to today. So it was my idea to do this podcast to introduce Michael to the realms of music, to music that he might have never heard before, to music that I think he would enjoy based on taste he currently has, and to try to maybe educate some of our listeners here on music that maybe they've never heard before, that they may find an interest in. We'll mainly be talking about the realms of rock, hard rock, heavy metal. We'll also touch on some film and video game scores. We're going to talk a little bit about some pop music, not a lot because I'm not a huge fan of pop music, but we will dive into some of the more popular stuff from the past. And I think this will be educational not only for Michael but for our listener base, and hopefully engage our listener base in talking to us a bit about what Michael's discovering and what he's listening to, and hopefully we're in for a phenomenal journey because how can you not be romantic about music? That said, we were talking about, as we were joining the show, about what he's been listening to this week, and Michael mentioned that he had been listening to What It Is to Burn by Finch. For those that don't know, that is Finch's major label full album debut. For those that don't know Finch, they are kind of I think people would probably classify them as emo these days, but they were kind of a hardcore punk group that surfaced in the early 2000s and had a few minor hits off of What It Is to Burn, and that is my personal favorite of the Finch records, and I know Michael really enjoys that. He also has been listening to, he's mentioned Periphery's P3 album. That is another one of my favorites. Periphery released that record in 2016, and in fact, I happened to come across a Facebook post I had made back in 2016 showing my top 10 records, and found that I had mentioned Periphery's P3 on that top 10 list for the year of 2016, so I thought that was fun. Me personally, what I've been listening to this week, Michael, I have been listening to a band called Amorphous. I've been actually listening to them for a couple weeks. Been trying to go through and listen to as much of their stuff as I possibly can. They start out as kind of a death metal, really heavy band. Not a lot of melody to their music. It's more straight up just heavy metal growls. But as their catalog goes along, they start to become a little more artsy and a little more progressive, and they start including that melody, and they start having clean vocals. And in fact, they end up switching singers, and the singer that they have currently, he's got some amazing clean vocals, and I really think it's influenced the direction of the band here. So they're a very interesting band to me right now. I've listened to quite a bit of them. I also have been listening to some brand new releases from this week. Michael got exposed to a little bit of that earlier this evening, and we'll actually get into some of that a little bit later in the show. Our big subject for this week that we wanted to talk about is our personal favorite top 5 records of all time. I kind of borrowed this idea from one of my favorite movies ever, a movie starring John Cusack called High Fidelity, and those of you that have seen the movie know what I'm talking about. He's constantly going on about top 5 records involving certain subjects or what have you, and he even goes into a bit about top 5 breakups. And it's a fantastic film. I highly recommend it if you've never seen it before. So this is our personal top 5 records of all time as it stands today. And the reason why I say as it stands today is because odds are, as we go along on this journey, Michael is going to discover more and more new material, and he may find that he's got new favorite records, and he may have to change it up. So I plan to make this more of a living thing that we will come back and revisit from time to time. And my personal top 5 kind of changes around also, and I think it probably would be that way for most people who listen to a lot of music. They discover things that change their lives, and on to the top 5 it goes. So that being said, let's go ahead and start out with you, Michael. Talk to me, first of all, a little bit about how you came up with your list.
Mostly, it was from the past few years of listening to music and getting exposed from your music that I came up with my list. It really helped me decide a little bit easier, because if it wasn't up to his music standards, it would have been country music.
Are you trying to say that country music was your bag before? Oh, come on now. Let's be honest.
It is.
Yeah.
It was.
What was your favorite? Who were your favorite country artists? That's okay. You can go
John
and
Party.
Yeah. I remember you singing John Party stuff.
Yeah.
Remember you singing Dirt on My Boots all the time.
Yeah. Georgia Florida Line. I think those were the main people I listened to.
Yeah, that seems to be about right. That's about what I recall. And yeah, I remember your little country stylings there for a while. Yeah, so going with your top 5 here, we're going to start at number 5, and we're going to work our way up to number 1. We're going to go and do this back and forth. So as not to influence Michael in any way, I am actually going to let him go first. So Michael, give me your number 5 record, all-time favorite.
5150.
By?
Van Halen.
So Van Halen 5150. What a phenomenal choice. I am unabashedly a huge fan of Van Halen, have been since I was a little guy. And my uncle was a guitar player in bands in the 70s and 80s, and even some in the early 90s. And he was constantly exposing my dad, and by proxy, my little brother and I, to the music that he was listening to, the stuff that was influencing him as a musician. And Van Halen was one of the major things that he was influenced by. We listened to so much Van Halen. I cannot express how much Van Halen's music means to me. Sammy Hagar as a vocalist is just outstanding. It just absolutely outstanding. Any favorite songs off that record, Michael?
Why Can't This Be Love?
Is that it? That's the only one?
Or Love Walks In, or Dreams.
Oh, man. Dreams, what a great song, dude. That's, yeah. That, hands down, one of my top two favorite tracks on that record, if not my favorite track on the record. Does it get any better than the high notes that Hagar hits on that song? It's crazy what he's doing on that record. And like, I can remember maybe 10 years ago or so, maybe longer, hearing Sammy Hagar pop up on a local radio talk show called Bob and Tom. And he's on that show at like 6 o'clock in the morning. And dude is belting out songs at the top of his lungs and just hitting every high note. It's 6 o'clock in the morning. He hasn't had any coffee and stuff and hasn't rehearsed. And somehow is belting these songs out. It was crazy. And Why Can't This Be Love is a good tune too. In fact, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that was the first song they released to the radio off of that record. And kind of was carrying on that quote-unquote new era of Van Halen that started with the record before that, which you have not heard yet, which you will be getting introduced to here before long. But this new era of Van Halen, it was introducing more keyboards into their writing and a little more pop sensibilities to their music. So, yeah, I can definitely see 5150 being an all-time favorite for sure. You got anything more to say on the record?
No. I think it's your turn.
All right. Well, then we'll go to my number 5. And my number 5 is a record from a band called Tool. The album is Anima. And Anima is the second major label record from Tool. The album art is lenticular. Do you know what I mean by lenticular?
No, sir.
What I mean by lenticular is, those cards or those stickers or pictures that you hold them one way and it shows one picture, and then you hold them a different way and it shows another picture.
3D?
Yeah, kinda. So that's what a lenticular album cover is. So if I recall correctly, all of the album art had some sort of lenticular thing going on. And one of my favorite things about that is one of the pieces of art was a photo of the state of California. And then if you turned it one way, the state of California was disappeared into the Pacific Ocean. So why that is so great is because that album was dedicated to one of my favorite comedians of all time, a guy named Bill Hicks. And Bill, by the way, parents, I would not recommend Bill Hicks to your children. Please don't blame me if you decide to listen to Bill Hicks with your children. I don't want to be responsible for that. But anyway, Bill Hicks has this bit on one of his comedy routines where he's talking about how he is wishing for the city of LA to be flushed into the Pacific Ocean to make the world a better place. He's talking about a catastrophic earthquake that finally just rips the state of California and just flushes it away into the Pacific Ocean. Right? Hilarious. So I love Anima for the album artwork, first of all. But second of all, because it was the first album from Tool that I ever heard. And it was an eye-opening experience for me. Someone that didn't get raised listening to progressive music at all. And Tool, very much at the time, was carrying the flag for progressive music with the mainstream. And the album itself is such a crazy, just a crazy mix of different types of dissonant sound and music. It's an amazing experience. When you listen to it, you need to sit down and make time to listen to it all the way through from start to finish. It's truly an amazing experience. Lots of great tunes on that record. Highly recommend songs like Eulogy, which is kind of a smart aleck ode to L. Ron Hubbard, who was the founder of the Church of Scientology. I also love The opening track, Stinkfist, that's a great tune. I love the title track, Anima. It's a great tune. Third Eye is also a great tune. 46 and 2, love 46 and 2. That's a reference to Jungian philosophy, and not that I expect that you know what that is, but
I have no clue.
It's also got to do with evolution, the theory of evolution. Mm-hmm. So, really good tune. Push It's a really good tune. Yeah, lots of good stuff on here. I highly recommend Anima by Tool. All right, Michael, you're up for number 4.
All right. My number 4 is P3, also known as Periphery 3, Select Difficulty. The reason why I picked this album was because it was the first thing that you introduced to from Periphery, because of The Way the News Goes, which is a great song.
Yeah, it's such a perfect pop song from a heavy metal, gent metal, whatever you want to call it, band. Yeah, it's very well done.
It's so well done, my sister has picked up on it.
Yeah, so I have a second child. My daughter, who just turned 6, absolutely adores Periphery, and that is her favorite song from them. Tell me about it. What is it that you like so much about it? Do you like some of the meanings behind the songs?
I like some of the meaning, especially with Flatline, because it's a great song, but it has a very sad meaning behind it.
You want to tell everybody what the song's about?
Do you want to?
Yeah, so Flatline is an anti-bullying song, trying to discourage the act of bullying. Basically, the premise of the song is someone is being bullied and pushed to their limit, to the point where they are considering ending their own life. And it's extraordinarily sad. And if you find yourself in that space, please reach out to somebody. Please talk to somebody. Talk to somebody, because I promise you, there's somebody out there that does care, someone that does love you. Don't ever choose that way out. But that's what this song is about. This song is about someone that's just been pushed to the brink. And it's such a sad tune, but it's got such a positive message about, stopping and thinking about what you're doing to someone else. So, yeah, be kind to people.
Probably my personal favorite song off this album is Loon, the last song. I think the whole entire musical standpoint through the instruments, the vocals.
Yeah, that's kind of a love song to his ex-wife now, because he's remarried. When I say he, I'm referring to Periphery singer Spencer Sotelo. As I recall from what I read, I believe that song is a love song written for his then wife. And yeah, it definitely comes across. There's a lot of emotion to that song. Yeah, I really love Loon also. It's a good tune. That whole record is really fantastic. Anything else you want to say?
No. You want to say anything else on that?
I'm going to hold back my remarks for a moment. I'll have more to say about it here in a minute.
Alright.
My number 4 is another phenomenal progressive rock record. This from a band that hails out of California by the name of Dredge. The album is their second full-length record titled El Cielo. I don't think that I am capable of putting to words a description for how beautiful this record actually is. How many times I've listened to that record and just been blown away, just had my breath completely taken. It was It's this beautiful journey. I've often described Dredge to friends and family as poetry in motion, and that's exactly what they are. It's a mix of jazz and rock, Middle Eastern influences. It's all over the board. These beautiful instrumental siegs in between tracks. It's an experience that, much like Anima, you need to experience like the whole thing when you listen to it. When you don't just pick out a song, sit down and listen to the whole thing from start to finish. Trust me, you will get more out of your experience doing that, and you will absolutely love this record. The record is inspired by two things. One, it is inspired by the writings of patients who were suffering from sleep paralysis and lucid dreaming. And it also was inspired by a painting. The painting is by Salvador Dali. The painting's titled Dream Caused by the Flight of a Bee Around a Pomegranate a Second Before Awakening. So it's inspired by both that and the writings of these patients dealing with the effects of lucid dreaming and sleep paralysis. And it's equal times touching and uplifting, emotional, sad. It's a beautiful experience. I could gush on and on and on about it. Some standout tracks from it. The opener, Same Old Road, is a really phenomenal song. Sands In, the next song on the record, is phenomenal. Of the Room, another phenomenal track off the record. Woe Is Me is probably my absolute favorite song on the record. And it's kind of funny. I've kind of gotten the impression from the band themselves that they kind of don't think of that song very very highly. They kind of think of it kind of flippantly when they talk about it. And to me, that song encapsulates what I mean by poetry in motion more than anything else. It's a breathtaking song. It's not heavy metal. There's no screaming vocals. It's all clean. Gavin Hayes is one of my favorite vocalists in all of music. The band itself is... I've ran out of superlatives. They're fantastic. I highly recommend El Cielo by Dredge. It's absolutely fantastic. Michael, have I tried to have you listen to that before?
I don't think you have.
Okay. That might be coming up soon.
Oh.
That might be coming up soon. All right, Michael. All right, we'll let you go on to your record number 3.
All right. It's kind of funny. It's What It Is to Burn by Finch. It kind of seems like I was listening to it this week. The reason why is because I just like mainly all the songs off it. It has very good guitar work and drummer, plus good vocals. Has a great bonus track added onto it. And if I were to say my favorite songs off the album, it would be a 1 through 5. It'd go New Beginnings at number 5, Letters to You at number 2, Perfection Through the Silence and 3 at 3, and then 3 Simple Words at 4, and number 1 is What It Is to Burn.
Yep. Interestingly, they didn't. What It Is to Burn wasn't a part of the regular album. It was included as a bonus track, and for me, What It Is to Burn it's definitely one of the top 5 or 6 songs on the record for sure. It might even crack top 2 for me on that record. It's such a journey. It's a great tune. Great tune. And we talked about this record a little bit earlier in the show here. It is kind of a post-hardcore, hardcore punk from the early 2000s. Some people would classify it as emo. There is a little bit of screaming involved, but I would say predominantly clean vocals for the most part. Yeah. Great record. It's kind of a breakup record, but it's fantastic. I got a tag on that I really enjoy Ender, which is the final actual track on the record before it goes into the bonus track for What It Is to Burn. And I really love Ender. I've seen some people on YouTube cover the song, and it's just made me love it even more. So, great album, good choice. Those first, at least the first 3 songs, are solid.
Thank you. It's on to you.
All right, so my number 3 record is another Sammy Hagar era Van Halen record. My choice is the second Sammy Hagar era Van Halen record, OU812. And yeah, that's meant to be funny. For the longest time, growing up and even into my teenage years, early 20s, I really was a bigger fan of albums like 5150 and even the follow-up album to OU812, which is called For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge. I was a bigger fan of those 2 albums than I was OU812. But as I've gotten older, I have really found an appreciation for OU812. I'm not a big fan of the production on the album. If I did have one critique, it is the production on the album. It's mixed very low, so you really have to crank up the volume to hear it and get a bit of a punch out of it. However, it may have been purposefully recorded this way and mixed this way because of the different sound that Eddie Van Halen was going for on the album. And for those not familiar with Van Halen, Eddie Van Halen was the guitarist in the band. His brother Alex played drums. Sammy Hagar was the singer for this particular album, and the great Michael Anthony playing bass. But OU812 has a completely different sonic sound to it than any of the other Van Halen work. One needs only look at songs like Finish What You Started or Feel So Good. Both of those songs are night and day difference from anything that Van Halen had done before, or really even since. When It's Love was a huge hit for them, and it's a really good tune, good ballad song. My personal absolute favorite song on the record, though, is the very first song on the record, a track called Mine All Mine. This is a song about trying to find your own beliefs, what you in your own heart believe in, not what somebody else has told you, not what somebody else has tried to teach you. It's what you believe, finding out for yourself. And it touches on matters of spirituality, some religious topics and such, and it's such a good song. And it's truly the only song in the Van Halen catalog that you could classify as any sort of prog. It's got a extreme prog rock feel to it. Hagar is all over it with his vocals and his lyrics. Great tune. You look like you want to say something, Michael.
Is it like instrumental? Or?
No. Sammy's singing on it.
No, I mean like, is it instrumental on the like you think the prog stuff?
Yeah, it's definitely the instrumentation. If you listen to it, you could definitely hear it. There's just, it's, yeah. I don't know that I could describe it to you well enough, more than you just need to hear it. It's a phenomenal tune. Other standout songs, When It's Love, and I mentioned that already. Feel So Good is a great song. All Fired Up is a really good tune. Cabo Wabo is a really good tune. I don't know that I can describe it any more than to give my give my highest recommendation from Van Halen, because I have no other Van Halen records on my top 5 list. This is the Van Halen record in my mind that everyone needs to hear. So check it out, Van Halen OU812. Michael, have you listened to any of that before? Or have you listened to it with me before?
I don't think I have.
Okay. Well, we might be on assignment for that too, because, well, we'll get into that later. How about your number 2?
It's P4. Periphery 4. Main reason why is I've gotten more used to the prog bands and like metal itself. Over time, you learn the words as they're screaming them. Also, you just gain more used to. You don't dislike the song because it has screaming in it. Like, most of the song is screaming. And the main reason why I like P4 is the songs are... That's all I gotta say. The second and third song on the album are probably the heaviest stuff that Periphery's ever done, in my opinion. Do you agree with me?
Yeah, I'm trying to recall. Is the second song, is that Blood Eagle, and then it goes into Church Burner?
Yes.
Yeah. Blood Eagle is one of the just nasty, heaviest songs I've ever heard. And before you get too offended, folks, about what we're talking about here, Blood Eagle is about Vikings and is about the act of giving a blood eagle. And if you are not familiar with what the blood eagle torture was, if you are a squeamish person, maybe don't look this up, but if you're not a squeamish person and you don't know what a blood eagle is, you could always Google it. I'm not going to talk about it here on the show. We're going to try and keep the show clean here.
Yeah.
I don't want to give nightmares. Church Burner, before you get offended by that, that also is a song about Vikings. So if you're familiar with the time of the Vikings and them coming into Christian lands and killing Christians and burning down churches and such, that's what this song is about. But P4 is probably, I'd have to say, is probably their heaviest record by far.
P2 has some heavy songs.
P2 has some heavy stuff, but nothing like what's on P4. You and I went to go see Periphery back in May, and the closer to the show was Blood Eagle, and that song frickin' tore the house down. I mean, tore the house down. I don't think I've ever seen a crowd go that ballistic before. That was an amazing experience. And P4 also features the very first song on the record is actually a song that I set out to try to learn, and it's harder to learn than what you might think. It is a song called Reptile, and it is also the longest song in the Periphery catalog. I think it clocks in at like over 18 minutes.
I'm gonna clarify that.
I think it clocks in at over 18 minutes. And
it clocks in at 16 minutes and 44 seconds.
Okay, 16:44. So it is the longest song in the Periphery catalog. Don't let the length of the song deter you from checking it out. There are enough changes in the song that make it feel fresh. So it's not just 16 plus minutes of the same stuff over and over again. You're getting changes in the song. It goes from heavy to melodic to kind of a ballady kind of thing at one point. There's a little bit of spoken word. There's a lot of nuance to that song. Don't let that length of that song deter you. Go ahead, Michael. What else you got to say about it?
Probably the fourth and fifth song are the most melodic on the album, in my opinion.
Those songs are?
Yeah.
Those songs are titled?
Golden Garden and the Bones and It's Only Smiles.
Yeah, so, yeah. Do you want to get into those here?
Do you want to do It's Only Smiles and I'll do Garden?
So, It's Only Smiles was, from my understanding, Spencer wrote that about the passing of his sister. It's a really pretty song. It's really well written. It is very poppy, catchy as all get out. Pretty song, very pretty song.
Will you assist me a little bit on Garden?
So, Garden in the Bones, from my understanding, is dealing with Native Americans and specifically about white settlers building on sacred Native American ground, burial grounds and such. And basically, the song is coming from the Native Americans' perspective, just being upset and angry with the fact that white settlers had stolen their land from them, basically, and stolen their sacred burial grounds and such. So it's a really fantastic song. It's really well written. Features one of my favorite breakdowns of all time. Just, yeah, really good tune.
In my opinion, the order of the best songs on this album, it goes Garden in the Bones as at first, Reptile at second, Satellites at third, It's Only Smiles at fourth, and my fifth would probably be Blood Eagle.
Good choices. Good choices.
Yours?
Hard for me to say. I like so many of the songs on P4. Let's save that for a more in-depth conversation, because as we'll discuss here later in the show, we're going to talk about some of the stuff we're going to get into here with future episodes. So let's save this conversation for later. All right. So that was your number 2, correct?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So moving on to my number 2, we have something in common. My number 2 is P3 from Periphery. If I had to say, as far as pure musical influence on me is concerned, P3 has to be one of those top influences on me. P3 was a record that made me go, I want to pick up a guitar and try and figure out how to play. One listen to the song Absalom, just the sheer guitar wizardry on that song. How can you not hear that song and just be mind blown by it?
Yeah, I was mind blown when I heard the guitar riff from it.
Yeah, there's a couple of solos in that record, or on that song. It's crazy good. There is a wonderful breakdown of that song on Rick Beato's YouTube channel, where it's his series called What Makes This Song Great, and he breaks down Periphery's Absalom. And he actually has one of Periphery's guitarists, Misha Mansour, on the show to talk about the writing and recording of that record. Or, I'm sorry, of that song. I keep saying record. Of that song. And the solo on that song is so complicated that Misha can't even remember how to play it right. He's noodling around and stuff, trying to remember how he played it and stuff, and he basically admits to Rick on the show that he writes the stuff to forget it. So folks, if you're a Periphery fan and you're hoping for someday to hear them play this live, don't hold your breath, because it's probably not going to happen. But yeah, the first time I heard Absalom, it melted my brain. And this is coming from somebody that's used to mind-melting solo work, especially from guys like Eddie Van Halen, who's just known for his guitar wizardry. But Misha just takes it to the next level. There's so many good tunes on P3 that we discussed earlier. not only the way the news goes, Flatline, Catch Fire, Loon, Remain Indoors, all of those songs, so good.
Agreed.
Anything else you want to add to our discussion on P3 here?
I do agree with you on Absalom. I did want to pick up a guitar and try and learn it again.
It's
inspiring.
It really is. So, funny story. And I know I kind of went on about Rick Beato a second ago, but I was also, from time to time, depending on the artist, I do enjoy watching reaction videos from time to time from different people, and happened to come across a reaction video of these two guys. I can't remember where they're from. They're not from the United States, but it's these two guys sitting down to listen to Absalom for the first time, and one of them was a guitar player. I think both of them might have been in a band, but one of them was a guitar player. He had his guitar hanging up on his wall behind him, and they're listening to the song, and it gets to the second chorus, or the second solo, which is the really good one.
Yeah.
And the non-guitar player guy, about halfway through the solo, stands up, picks up the guitar off the guy's wall, and he's like, "This is for sale because I don't think we can do any better than this." So if that tells you anything or sells you on the solo on this song, it really should, because it's mind-blowing. Yeah. If you can't tell, folks, we love Periphery on this show. All right, Michael, drum roll. Number one for you.
It's P2. This time
Wow,
it's personal.
3 Periphery records on your top 5? 3? All right. So we got P5 here at number 1. Or P2.
P2.
P2, sorry. Yeah, P2.
It's mainly because I love every single song on this album. It's so fun to listen to. Exactly what you're saying with all your past tops. It's like an album that you have to sit down and listen all the way through it, because it has a true beauty inside. Like Scarlet is a great song. Also, Erased.
Iracid.
Oh, it's Erased.
Iracid is how I would pronounce that. Yeah, it's Desire backwards.
Oh. Have any words?
I really like P2. I don't know that I like it as much as you do, but I really do like P2. For me, P2 is where Periphery really starts, in my opinion. They had done, obviously, one record before that, which was a self-titled record, and I like it okay. It's got some good songs on it, but it's, from my understanding, Spencer didn't have very much time to prepare to sing on that record. Periphery originally had a different singer, and they brought in Spencer very late in the process of recording that record and putting that record together. So Spencer's vocals on P1 are very raw, and it's very different from how he sounds on the rest of Periphery's records.
He sounds unconfident.
Yeah, a bit, yeah. So, P2 in my mind is where Periphery really begins. And I do very much like P2. There are a lot of really good songs on P2. I don't think I like it as much as you do, but there are quite a few good tunes. Iracid's one of my favorites. I love Scarlet.
Look as a Constant.
Yeah, Luck as a Constant's a good one.
Have a Blast?
Yes, Have a Blast. I do love Have a Blast. It's a good song. Yeah, G is a really good song. Ragnarok's a really good song. Epoch, Frog and Bullfish, Masamune. Yeah, all those are really good tunes. Yeah. You want to talk a little bit more about why that's your number one, though? Why that ranks number one before the likes of P3 or P4?
Like you were saying, it's like it feels like the starting of Periphery. didn't all their band members currently join during P2? Or was it during P3?
Yeah, I believe it was during P2 that they had brought in all of the current members. I think this was the first time that all of the current members of Periphery were in the band. I'm pretty sure P2 was the first time Mark Holcomb was in the band for sure. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure P2 was the first time that all of the current members of Periphery were in the band. And for those that don't know, Periphery has 3 guitarists in the band. Not 1, not 2, but 3. And they are all virtuoso guitar players. Every single one of them. My hat's off to Misha Mansour, Mark Holcomb, and Jake Bowen. The 3 of those guys are magicians, man. Just, it's amazing what they can do. Not only are they fantastic guitar players, but we discovered that Jake also does some really cool...
It's like DJ to me.
Yeah, kind of like EDM kind of stuff. It's very interesting. It's kind of relaxing and
laid back.
Very laid back. Very different from what they do in Periphery and stuff. Really cool stuff. Electronic music. If you're into that kind of thing, I check them out. Anything else you want to say on this?
Nope. You?
No. We'll save that discussion for another time.
Huh?
Okay. So, now my number 1. This is from a band that Michael and I actually were just talking about earlier this evening. About something that I was really looking forward to.
Oh.
Got an idea on the band?
Yeah.
Who do you think it is?
Under Oath.
Under Oath?
I
like Under Oath, but no, that's not what we were talking about.
It was the first thing that came off my tongue. I know the band that you're talking about. I just can't think of the name.
The band would be a band from Sweden.
Yeah.
Prog metal band by the name of Opeth. The album that falls for number 1 for me, the immortal Blackwater Park. Blackwater Park is just a masterpiece of dark progressive metal. And I guess Michael and I probably should have been talking a little bit about the vocals a bit on each of our picks here. Because while I recognize that not everybody is going to enjoy a screaming or a growling vocal, I would like to think that people, if you're listening to this show, are listening to the show because they want to be introduced to something new, that they want to broaden their minds and open their minds up a bit. Maybe check out something that that they wouldn't usually listen to, or maybe they might find something that they like that maybe they didn't think they would. So when Michael first started listening to the kind of music that I listened to, I don't think he liked it very much.
Yeah.
I don't think he liked all the screaming and stuff like that. But when I introduced him to something that was a mixture of screaming and melodic clean vocals, he started to dig it. And then he started to dig the screaming vocals then, because he figured out that it was just a part of the music, right? It flows with the music. So Periphery is a mix of screams and growls and clean vocals. Obviously, Van Halen is all clean vocals. That's got the great clean vocals from Sammy Hagar. Dredge is all clean vocals, no screaming in those. Tool is a mixture at times of screaming and clean vocals, but it's not a lot of screaming.
Finch is mostly clean.
Yeah, Finch is mostly clean. There is some screaming in there. There's some guest vocalists on there that do quite a bit of screaming. But again, it's a mixture. So with Opeth, they are in their early days of Opeth, they had a mixture of harsh death metal growls and clean vocals. And if you've never heard Michael Ackerfeld sing or scream either one, you're in for a treat, because Ackerfeld's one of the best in the business. His just deep guttural growling is some of my favorite heavy metal, death metal growls. But then he disarms you with his cleans. His cleans are so smooth. It's a night and day difference, but it's the same guy. Mm-hmm. Blackwater Park is an amazing experience of a record from start to finish. Interestingly, it was not my introduction to Opeth, though. My introduction to Opeth was through a song called Deliverance, which is off a record called Deliverance. The first time I heard them, I was listening to Sirius XM radio, and Deliverance pops on the radio, and I'm like, what is this? So I crank it up all the way, and I'm just blasting my eardrums out, and it was life altering. Mm-hmm. The mixture of the heavy and the melodic, and the way Mike can go from the death metal growl to the clean vocals and make that transition so easily. A mixture of a mixture of heavy distorted guitars, then going into these clean acoustics and stuff. Anyway, that's talking about Deliverance. That was my introduction to Opeth. I got into them after that. Blackwater Park became my favorite record from them. The Drapery Falls might be one of the best songs ever written. What an amazing experience that song is. If you listen to only one song on Blackwater Park, make it The Drapery Falls. I promise you, you're not going to regret it.
Any reason?
Yeah, because of the amazing transitions in the song, the changes in tempo, the changes in his vocal styling, there's so much nuance and beauty to that song. It's an absolute masterpiece. Absolute masterpiece. The whole record is really good. I know, again, screaming vocals, not everybody's bag. Totally understand that. Mm-hmm. Give it a try. Give it a try. Blackwater Park is a masterpiece. The title track, Blackwater Park, I love the guitar work on that song. And I think you'll enjoy the guitar work on the Drapery Falls also. A mind-blowing piece of work, and another one of those records that made me go, how is he doing that? Like, it made me want to go take vocal lessons. It made me want to strap on a guitar and learn how to play again. And I have tried to learn to play, nothing off of Blackwater Park, but I just set out to try to learn how to play Deliverance. And I can play the opening bit of that song pretty well. And I can play the little acoustic breakdown pretty well too. But I've never learned to play the entire song. Check out Blackwater Park. I think you'll really enjoy it. Did you like what you listened to earlier from Opeth?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. We're going to talk about that a little bit here in just a little bit. But yeah, those are our top 5 for now. What I am doing here, and what I'm going to do going forward, is anytime we do one of these top 5 lists, I am going to keep a little spreadsheet of our top 5s and when we gave them. That way we can go back and revisit these later when you've listened to some more music, when you've been introduced to more stuff, and see how it has changed as time has gone along. And I think I'm going to make that viewable to our listeners so that they can go in and take a look and see for themselves also. What do you think?
I like the idea. We had thought of the idea halfway through us like making our what was that we decided on the top 5 thing. Like I'm trying to think, when did we decide on doing that?
Oh, I can't remember. It was probably shortly before we recorded the trailer.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll do that. I am also going to track something else that we're going to talk about here in just a few minutes here. But that was the main part of our show. We are going to do more of these top fives as the show progresses. Not just top 5 records of all time, but we'll get into maybe, top 5 favorite rock and roll songs or top 5 favorite Van Halen songs or what have you. We're going to get into more of those as the show goes along here. And as Michael gets introduced to more music. And that brings us to our question of the day. What are your personal top 5 favorite records of all time? We would love to hear from you, and we'd love to read your selections on air. You can reach out to us in a number of ways. You can email us at lightmovepod@gmail.com. That's LEITMOVE@gmail.com. Or you can reach out to us through one of our many different social media accounts. All of this information will be included in the show notes. So, that being said, with our top 5 records out of the way here, let's talk a little bit about music that's on the horizon that we're looking forward to here. This is a little segment that I like to call Can't Wait. This is new music that's coming soon, coming down the pipe here. Something that just released today that I have not gotten a chance to listen to is the new Smashing Pumpkins record. For the life of me, I really don't know how the title of the record is pronounced. It's kind of weird. I
pronounce it.
God love Billy Corgan. He is an artist to a T, and I'm sure that the title of the record is coming somewhere from that deep down place where he is an artist. The new record, I have no idea how this is pronounced. It's like Agori Mori May, I think is how it's pronounced, but I'm not positive of that. Yeah. If you Google the Smashing Pumpkins, you're gonna come up with the title of the record. I have not gotten a chance to listen to it, but I have been looking forward to it coming out since it was surprise announced, I think a couple of weeks ago. So, looking forward to checking that out. A bunch of new music got debuted this week, and Michael and I were on a car trip earlier, and I was turning Michael on to a bunch of the stuff that got introduced this week, signifying new music on the way from a bunch of my favorite artists. So, one of the new songs that got introduced was a new song from Opeth, who I just mentioned earlier had my number 1 favorite album. Opeth has a new album on the way. It is going to be titled The Last Will and Testament. And they just put out a radio edit of the first single from the song, which is titled Section 1. It's actually the S symbol that you see on like a will or a formal document that stands for section. So it's S1, and it is 4+ minutes of nothing but Opeth goodness. For the last several Opeth albums, they had made a transition from doing growls and screams as part of their music to doing more of a straightforward prog rock sound, kind of in the vein, if you will, of like a King Crimson or Camel. All clean vocals, less really heavily distorted guitars. This is a return to the more dark sound, creepy sound from earlier Opeth records. And Michael Ackerfeld has reintroduced his growling vocals to it. He also has his daughter on the record doing some of the background vocals and stuff, which I thought was pretty cool. Very,
I realize that.
Yeah, very haunting track. Awesome tune. New record comes out in October. I already pre-ordered it. I cannot wait. I absolutely cannot wait. What did you think of the song we listened to earlier, Michael?
I liked it. It was very eerie. Had that spooky feeling. If you're watching a spooky movie or something. That's really my only opinion on it.
We also listened to another song that came out this week from a band called Arch Enemy, Dream Stealer. Now, Michael's never heard anything from Arch Enemy before. He hadn't heard anything from Opeth before either, to be fair. But he had never heard anything from Arch Enemy before. But he had heard from the singer from Arch Enemy before. Do you remember where you heard her from?
Nita Strauss?
Yeah, Nita Strauss. She sang with Nita Strauss on one of the songs on Nita Strauss's newest record, a song called The Wolf You Feed, where she actually, the singer from Arch Enemy, actually does do a little bit of clean singing on that Nita Strauss song. No clean vocals in this new Arch Enemy song, though. It's straight up in your face heavy metal. It's heavy metal greatness. Just awesome. Great. I love it. What'd you think?
I liked it.
Yeah? I'm a little surprised by that because I know you're not typically real big on all screaming vocals and stuff, so...
I've started to get used to it, kind of like what I went on about P4, and getting more used to the screaming vocals.
Alright. That surprises me. Well, that's awesome. Good for you.
Evolution.
Absolutely. Good for you. And this, folks, if Michael can learn to love it, you can too. Another song we listened to, a new song released this week, was from a band from Ukraine called Ginger. Features another awesome female vocalist. They are a kind of a prog gent band, and their new song, I believe it's called Someone's Daughter.
It is.
Next time I will be better prepared.
You gotta write this stuff down.
Yeah, new Ginger song is called Someone's Daughter. I had actually seen the music video for that and the Arch Enemy song earlier this week, but I just turned Michael on to it this evening. I really enjoy Ginger in general, and I really enjoyed the song. Good mixture of clean vocals and the harsh, growling vocals. Outstanding song. Looking forward to more music from Ginger. What'd you think, Michael?
It was different. That's one thing. But I liked it.
Would you be willing to listen to more of it?
Yes.
All right. That's important. That's key. All right. We also listened to a new song from Lacuna Coil, who he had also never heard before. This new song featuring Randy Bly from Lamb of God. Song's called Hosting the Shadow. Lacuna Coil doesn't really have a lot of screaming in it. It's mostly clean vocals, a little bit of yelling here and there, but not usually a lot of harsh screaming in Lacuna Coil stuff. But this one has Randy Bly from Lamb of God primarily on the vocals, and there is a great deal of screaming in this song. In fact, it might be the heaviest Lacuna Coil song I've ever listened to before, and I really enjoyed it for that reason because it was so heavy. Michael, what'd you think?
Based on what the details you gave me before listening to the song, it seemed very different than what their normal songs would normally sound like.
Yeah, we'll get into some Lacuna Coil later down the road here. Would like for you to listen to some of their stuff. I think you would enjoy it, especially if you like some of the stuff that your mom listens to, things like Evanescence or Within Temptation. I think you would like Lacuna Coil pretty well.
Yeah, I like those bands.
So, that said, those are some of the music that we're looking forward to, because when they're releasing singles, an album's not too far behind. So, that's some of the stuff that I'm looking forward to. Michael, is there anything that you're looking forward to that is coming down the pipe?
I have no clue if there's any music coming.
Fair enough. And this, sir, is why we are doing this show. All right. So, moving on to our last segment of the show. This is kind of a surprise. I'm springing this on Michael tonight because I wanted to keep him on his toes for this show. This is a segment I'm calling Michael's Journey, discovering a song from the past. And for this segment, I am going to just randomly pick songs from the past that he may not have heard of before. Maybe he's heard something from the artist before, but he's never heard this song before, or maybe he's never heard the artist before. But I'm opening up the range of music for these segments. We'll dive into some Motown. We'll dive into some pop music and stuff. Mostly older pop because I really don't like most of what passes for pop music today. Michael's first assignment to listen to between now and our next episode, where we will talk about this song in the next episode. Michael is going to be discovering the absolute joy that is listening to the silky smooth voice of Marvin Gaye, and he is going to listen to the song What's Going On. Michael, have you heard this song before, or do you know who Marvin Gaye is?
You've played me a few of the songs from this artist, but I do not know if I've heard it. It would take me probably listening to it to figure out if I've listened to it or not.
Okay. So, just to give you a little background to the song before you go in and listen to it, the reason why I picked this one is because I know how much you enjoy history. Mm-hmm. And it seemed to me like you really enjoyed learning about wartime in America. Mm-hmm. So this song is a protest song of the Vietnam War. Mm-hmm. And I really think you're going to enjoy it. Looking forward to discussing this song with you on our next recording here. So make sure you listen to it a few times, get a feel for it, get a feel for the lyrics, get a feel for how Marvin performs the song. I very much think you're going to enjoy it.
I will get on to that.
All right. For our next episode, we are going to be covering Sammy Hagar's debut record with Van Halen, 5150. We did talk about 5150 just a little bit in brief earlier in the show when Michael was giving his top 5 countdown. And what we want to do with the next episode is we're actually going to do a deep dive into the record. We're going to go track by track. We're going to talk about each one of the songs, talk about what we like about each song, what we may not like about each song. And we're going to talk a little bit about the history of the album. I do want to say that I am not here to debate whether or not Sammy Hagar is a better vocalist than David Lee Roth or vice versa. That's not what I'm doing the show for. That's not a discussion I want to get into. That's not up for debate with me. Michael has not been exposed to a lot of David Lee Roth's music yet. We are going to get into that here, but he actually chose 5150 for this first show. And that's because we are going to see Sammy Hagar later this summer. Michael has never seen Sammy Hagar before, but he's heard me talk about him so much. I've seen him several times, seen him with Van Halen, seen him by himself. Michael really wanted to go see him this summer, so he wanted to start getting familiar with some of Sammy's works from Van Halen, so 5150 was a record that he chose.
I think, to me, I think the main reason why I wanted to do this podcast is to learn about the history of music. Also, another reason was because of the Van Halen show. So we could talk about a topic that we could both be familiar with. Unlike us talking about country, you're not familiar with country. Or before I was getting into heavy metal and stuff, vice versa.
So that said, we do want to hear from you. We will read your emails and messages on the show, and we have only one request. Keep them clean. We're trying to keep this as a family show, so please try to keep your emails clean. If they're not clean, then I will not be reading them on the air. There are several ways you can contact us. You can email us at lightmovepod@gmail.com. You can also reach us on several different social media platforms: Facebook, X, Bluesky, Instagram, and Threads. The details specifically on how to contact us through those avenues will be in the show notes. If you like the show, subscribe to us on your favorite podcasting platform and share with your friends and family. We are available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and a variety of other platforms. If you can't find us on your chosen platform, shoot us a message and let us know, and I'll do my best to try and get us on that platform.
Please leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. This helps us to be found by the
Algorithm.
Make them good, and we'll read them on the air. Are you in a band and you'd like us to check you out and possibly drop a recommendation on the show? Shoot us a message. We'd love to check you out and give you a shout.
We'd like to thank you very much for listening to the Leitmotif and Movement podcast. I promise you that future shows are not going to be held up by as many technical errors and not being prepared. The show's going to get better as it goes along. This is just our first foray, so we hope you're going to come back. In the meantime, take care and enjoy music.